gave us. We ask you to help us to succeed in that. With the services today, guide and direct messages, lessons, songs, praise. Help us to bring acceptable worship to you, Lord. And thank you for all you do. In Jesus' name, amen. Last week we talked a little bit about the duties of the priests and what the priests do, what they were responsible for, and how it was easy. For a while they were focused on getting everything right, and then after a while they just lost focus altogether. And frequently just started getting into a habit of just going through the motions. And it's easy, we do the same thing. We can get in the habit of, we know how to do this, we know how to go to church, we know how to be a Christian, but we're not being a Christian because we're just going through the motions of being a Christian. We're not actually living for God. We're just going through the motions. We're putting on a lifestyle. And that's not being a Christian. That's not salvation. You can't make it to heaven going through the motions. It ain't going to save you. You'll look like a Christian. You'll act like one, and a lot of people will be fooled. And you'll miss it. You get up there and you'll hear, sorry, I never knew you. But I did this and I did this and I did. I never knew you. You weren't mine. You looked like mine, but you weren't mine, and I know mine. And we looked at that. We looked at the tabernacles and the temple and the different aspects of the priests and the seriousness of entering into God's presence the right way, how to worship, how to praise, how they're different. Today we're going to look at something just a little bit, a different angle. We're going to walk through the temple, and what does that mean? What does it mean going through the temple, the different parts of it? To them, each of those parts meant something, but this is deeper than the ritual part of it. This is, what does it mean? See, when we walk through the temple, when we guide someone through, or we're guiding ourselves through, each of those parts represent something. To them, they represented physical things. To us, they should represent some spiritual things. Because what you're doing, as you're coming through, you're making your way to God, to His presence. That's what you're doing. So as you come up, the first thing you're going to do, you're going to come up on the gate. There's a gate that lets you into the courtyard, which is a surrounded area. The temple or the tabernacle is inside of that. You're coming up on that gate. And when you come to the gate and come in, it was the only way in, one way. The only way to get into where God's presence would be. You had to go through that gate. You couldn't choose another way. You couldn't go over the fence. You couldn't go around it. You had to go through that gate. One way in. And that, inside there, in that courtyard, you weren't even in the temple yet. That's where the sacrifices were actually going to be made for animal sacrifices. Out in that big courtyard. Who was permitted in that gate? And when it was just the tabernacle out in the wilderness or up in Canaan, only Israelites were permitted in there. Later times when they had the temple, they actually had two courtyards, an inner courtyard and an outer one. The outer one, anybody could get in, literally. Visitors, foreigners, everyone. The inner courtyard, only Israelites could go in. Inside there was where the temple sat. But when they were out in the wilderness, they only had one courtyard, the tabernacle. Only Israelites could go in. Foreigners could come up outside. They could ask somebody to take an offering in for them. They just couldn't go in. They weren't at that time, they weren't accepted yet. But that's as far as anyone could go. Only Levites had a right to be a part of the group who could go in the temple. Not all Levites could go in the temple. Only a part of them could go in. But that part was always a Levite. The part that could go in was the family of Aaron. You had to be a direct descendant of Aaron to be a priest. By definition, you would be a Levite because he was. He was of the tribe of Levi. All the other families who were under Levi were part of the ones who could build the tabernacle, tear it down, build the gate, the courtyard fence, all that stuff, haul it around, be responsible for setting up and preparing the new place. They could do all that. They couldn't go in the temple or the tabernacle. Only the priests could go in the tabernacle, and that had to be the family of Aaron. That's what God set it up as. So you're coming in that gate, you go in, you step in, and you know when Israel did this at first, they were thankful. God was there. They were happy. It didn't take very long, and they weren't satisfied anymore. What do you mean? Well, you know, it wasn't too long, and a group of, instigated by 3 men, Korah and 2 other dudes, decided, why can't we all be priests too? Why are you the only ones who can do this? We're all holy. We all go through the steps. Why can't we do it? And they started raising up a ruckus. This is Numbers 16 and 17. I'll tell you all about this. It's Korah and Nathan and Abram and 250 others. They came to Moses and Aaron complaining, hey, you guys think you're something. You really think you're it. You think you should be in charge. What made you in charge? Well, God kind of did. Well, why can't we do it? We want to be in charge. We want to do it too. He said, okay. You go get your censer. Censer was sort of like an oil lamp, except for it had a facility to burn incense in it. So you could burn incense in this thing. So you go get your censers. You be here tomorrow morning with your censers. You get out here in front of the temple and you light them up, burn them for God. Whoever he accepts, they're okay. If he says no, that's between you and God. And you know what? They came the next morning. And God said, I said Aaron's family. Moses, get out of the way. I'm going to kill everybody. No. Okay. You separate these guys. Moses sent them back to their tents. They all went back home. God came and opened up the ground. Moses said, God's going to show you. He's going to do something that's never been done before. He's going to show you who's his and who he chose and who he didn't choose. God opened up the ground, swallowed their families, their tents, everything they owned, and closed the ground back up like it had never been opened. He ate them. And then those other 250 who were with him, he sent fire throughout the camp, burned them all up. He said, now I said Aaron family will be the priests. Anybody got a problem with that? You'd have thought they'd have learned. The next morning, they had a problem with that. They came and had a fit. You killed off our priest. You killed off our people. That really got God going. Aaron and Moses didn't kill anybody. Moses didn't have power to open the ground. God turned a plague loose on Israel. Moses and Aaron did their best to pray and get God to stop the plague. But by the time it was over, it had killed 14,700 people just because they complained. God's a little bit serious about coming into his presence. And it's a little serious whether we do this right, whether we have the right attitude, whether we respect what's happening and who he's put to do what things. He's a little bit serious about this. And that was in the Old Testament. He's the same God. You know what? After that, when they first put the temple up and they opened them, people were happy to come in. After that, the people said they were terrified to go into the courtyard of the temple. Numbers 17, 12 and 13. And the children of Israel spake unto Moses, saying, Behold, we die, we perish, we all perish. Whosoever cometh anything near unto the tabernacle of the Lord shall die. Shall we be consumed with dying? They were terrified to come before the Lord. Why? They knew this is a real God. This isn't a joke anymore. This isn't the gods of the Egyptians and name all the ites that they seen out in the wilderness. This isn't those idols. And it's all a big ceremony and a big party. This is real. This God, he'll kill you if you mess up. They were terrified to come before him after that. And what you read from that point on, they were always afraid to come in the gate because they knew how serious it was and how serious you had to be when you came in. You're going to come in that tabernacle. You're going to come in the presence of God. So the next step, you're inside the courtyard. Now you're going to see the brazen altar. The brazen altar was the great big platform they used to actually do the animal sacrifices on. We learned all those details, but what's actually happening there? When something was brought to the altar, what was, not the ritual, not the detail, what was happening? A living being was being brought before God. Its life's blood was drained out of it, and it was given to God as a sacrifice. A living being was given as an offering to atone in some way for the sins of the people. That's what was happening. Something had to die in order for there to be able for somebody else to continue to have life. Somebody else to be able to go forward for God. Something had to die. That's what was happening out there at that altar. Now we've had, since then, Christ is our perfect sacrifice that atones for our sins. But when we come in there before God now we're the sacrifice. We're offering him our life. Our sins have been covered if we've done that, but we're offering our life every time we come before him. Lord, am I acceptable? Will you take me? I know I don't atone for sin, but will you take me? Will you take my offering? Will you accept it? So therefore, when we're coming before God, we got to be asking ourselves every time, is there anything I need to do? Is there anything in the way? Is there anything that makes my sacrifice, my offering to God, unacceptable? Remember, he was really picky about what he would take. They had to be perfect. They had to be just this right, just this. Is there anything about my sacrifice that he won't take? I'm offering myself to you, God. The New Testament, Paul tells us, we are sacrifice. Come on, giving him our all is only a reasonable sacrifice. If you go on past that sacrifice, then you're going to see a big thing they call a laver, which we would, some places they got different names for it, but it's basically a great big huge pool of water inside of a brass or bronze device. In front of everyone. Not hidden back in private, in public, or in their home or in a room, out in front of everyone. The priests who were going to go back in that tabernacle, who were going to go in before God in his presence, had to get up and wash in front of everyone. Hands and feet in front of everyone. Up on a raised platform. Oh, no, there's no hidden. Lord, here I am. I'm sanctifying. I'm giving it all to you. I am sanctifying myself to you. Everybody else, I'm sanctifying myself to God. This is what was happening. We lose track of this because in our life we get caught up in going through the motions, and when we start coming before God, we start forgetting what's happening. This was the steps that were happening. I'm sanctifying myself, Lord. I want to be totally clean, ready and prepared for you. So when we come before God, are we doing this? Are we willing? Remember, the public sees everything that's going on. Many, many times, the people you work with, the people you went to school with, the people around you, your neighbors, know you better than you know yourself. They know how you really live. They know when you're home doing whatever and everybody else that you would be around would be in church. They know what's going on. You think, well, nobody knows. Oh, they know. Believe me. I'm not even a real big neighbor person. Mostly I grew up out in the valley and there were no neighbors. I never had neighbors from the time I was 5th, 6th grade till I was married. The nearest neighbor, you could fire a gun, they might hear it. You couldn't see them. So I was not a neighbor person. I didn't grow up that way. But I can still tell you, looking out the window of my house, across the streets, who's home, who's not home, how often they've been gone, when it's a strange car. Oh, I'll look across there, hey, there's somebody I've never seen that car with it, sitting in the street. Keep an eye on that. It's been sitting out there for an hour. We don't know them people. Your neighbors know you more than you think they do. So they walked in. They were clean now. They walked into the temple. When you walked in the temple, there's only about 3 things in that tabernacle. Either one, there's only about 3 things right inside that main room. There's going to be a table of showbread on one side. There's going to be the candle on one side. And right in front of you is going to be a small altar for incense, burnt right before the veil to the Holy of Holies. That's all that's in there. So you go in there and we got the table of showbread. Now, yes, this was offered to God just like the meat offerings or the animal offerings were offered to God, but the priests were allowed to eat thereof because this was their due. They didn't have an inheritance. Everybody else got land. The Levites didn't get land. They got of the temple. That was theirs. They had to take care of it. They had all the work. They had to tear it down and set it up. When it come to be a physical temple, take care of it forever. And the thing was massive. They got to eat thereof. So they would get meat from out there. They even said they had meat hooks. They'd reach in, hook off a chunk of meat and pull it out, take it. They got to eat of the showbread inside, which after it had been blessed and God had blessed it, then they could eat thereof. It was the bread the priests came together and ate together in the presence of God. Now, this is how this came to me. I'm sure there's other ways to interpret all these things. There's lots of types and shadows that can be put on every bit of this. I'm just giving you the way it came to me. But this represented the fellowship of these priests together before God. This was something they came and did together before God. The fellowship they had as God's children. And see, our problem is too often we get caught up in our quarrels. Come on. Or disagreements. Or hurt feelings. Or whatever's happening. Or whatever's not happening. And we lose all sight of the fact that we're supposed to be in fellowship. We're God's children. We're supposed to be in fellowship with each other. How can we worship God together? Come on, how can we come as one where 2 or 3 are together, not just gathered together, gathered as one when there's not true fellowship? And you can't have true fellowship when all the stuff's in the way. It doesn't work that way. God doesn't overlook it. He doesn't ignore it. And if we do, we're not as one. The showbread was the thing that the priests did together. When they came in there, they were the ones who we're living for God. We're allowed to represent Him. We're allowed to be right there. And this matters because in the New Testament, if we're the holy priesthood and our body is the temple for Christ, and God's Spirit dwells within, how can we be in fellowship? We got to be in fellowship all the time. We're all part of the priesthood. And we can't let anything come between that. Because what happened in that temple if something came between and one of those priests got out of order? Gone. God said, nope, dead. Can't use you. You're not ready. Well, he did it many times. There's many, many times. I was reading about a king tried to go into the temple. Down the road, Uzziah, I believe, tried to go in and the priest came and stopped him. The priest went out and gathered up 80 other priests and come and surrounded him and said, you are not going in there. That's only for God's. You're not a Levite. You can't go in there. You're not a Levite. You're not a priest. You can't go in there. Oh, but I'm the king. It doesn't matter. He's very serious about his fellowship, about his children, about who does what and who's allowed to do what and when. He's serious about all this. We can't just come before God as a bunch of individuals who think they don't have need of each other. Have no desire to be in each other's presence. It doesn't going to work. God's ignoring all of it. You can go through the motions, you can go do all the steps and be rejected. If we're coming in a way that we can't be in fellowship with each other, we're not in fellowship with God. Come on. I knew this was going to get a little straight today because I knew what this was, but this way, make sure you get this point out real clear. If you're not in fellowship with each other, you're not in fellowship with me. So the question to ask, Lord, is there some area, some part of me, something I need to do to restore the fellowship, whatever it is, with whatever person or group I don't have it with? Not am I wrong? See, we get focused on the am I wrong part. Am I wrong? That's not the question. Lord, is there something I need to do to restore a fellowship? I got to be in fellowship with you so I can worship. I got to be in fellowship with you so I can come before you. What do I need to do? You show me, I'll do whatever I got to do. Why? The little humility to get in heaven ain't going to hurt me a bit. It's just not going to hurt me a bit. Matthew 5:23 from the NLT. So if you are presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple, and you remember someone has something against you, leave your sacrifice at that altar, go and be reconciled to that person, then come back and offer your sacrifice.
It promotes another question. Why would they have something against me?
Most of us are old enough, we've been through experiences. It can be something we did and something we didn't do.
Right. But most of the time what he's getting at is why would he have something against me? Well, probably that little smirk I made at him, or I did do him wrong. God's faithful.
He makes you aware of what the problem is.
I know you and I have the same sense of humor. There's been times I've made wisecracks to people that you and I would have thought was funny. And it hurt somebody else. And God's always been faithful to bring it and said, you hurt. That wasn't your intention. That wasn't your intention. And most of the time our attitude is, well, they need to get over it. No, they're not going to get over it. You have to go.
If you want fellowship, just fix it.
Right.
And most of that always comes down to the same. It's always pride.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
You're right.
I've had this with my kids before. What's the big deal is just saying, I'm sorry.
Right.
Just say it. Just go, I'm sorry. Didn't intend to, didn't mean nothing by it, but I shouldn't have done it.
Right.
It fixes a whole lot of things. But this is just the way the Lord brought it to me. You can't have fellowship with me if you're not going to go all the way. And if you can't have fellowship with each other, how do you think you want fellowship with me? Right. I'm a whole lot more serious than the rest of these are. We look across that room to the other side, and there's a lampstand. That real fancy candelabra. No, its purpose is to light up that room. It was lit with fire from God and with special oils that they were told to use to create it to keep it lit. But its purpose, what it's really for, is light. It's not about being some big, beautiful golden structure, which it was. It's about light. So we lose track of what the purpose of the temple was. Without it, you'd go in that temple and you couldn't see anything because it was all closed up. It'd be total black. It provided light. You could see what you were doing. You could see where you were going, what you were touching. It illuminated everything. But when we are coming in God's place, what's his light for? It's to illuminate our path. And a lot of times we don't want the light. We don't want either things exposed or we don't want the path ahead shown. We don't necessarily want to go where he wants us to go. We don't necessarily want to do what he wants us to do. He's there to give light. That's what he's for. But are we accepting that light? Are we letting the light go out and blocking it off because we don't want it? We don't want to see what we're going to see. Because he's going to show us anything that isn't right. When they were in there with that candle lit, they could see if something wasn't perfect. Hey, you dropped that on the floor. Pick that up. I can't be there. This place has got to be just so. Hey, somebody didn't get the showbread back on there just right. It's hanging off the side. You get that fixed. I can only see it because there's light there to show it to me. I'm in there in the light, and they got my police robes on. And somebody comes up and says, hey, you got that thing on wrong. You don't have that tied right or whatever, because I don't know exactly what they look like. That ain't just right. Get it right. Come on. Why? I can see it. You can see it. God's word illuminates. He said, my word is a light. It's a light unto your path. It'll show you the way. It'll show you what's good. It'll show you what's bad. It'll show you the error. It'll show you how to live. But we got to accept it. So we're going through that temple, and all these things have meant something so far. This thing is for light. If we're not going to let the light shine in our life, it's not going to be able to guide us. And what do you tell us? Church, you're supposed to be a light on the hill. You're supposed to be that lamp up there that everybody around can see. Don't put it under a bushel. Don't cover it up. Now we walk over in front of the Holy of Holies, and there's the altar of incense. This was an altar purely to create a sweet smell for God. That was this whole purpose. You didn't burn anything else on it. And it was very specific, the kind of things that were put on there to burn. In fact, they were restricted on pain of death. No one else could have this stuff or burn it anywhere else. This is for God. And it was to be kept burning continuously. It could never go out. Not that it didn't happen. The priest allowed it to happen a couple of times. They paid the price. They went in and tried to relight that thing. Not with God's fire. God killed them. People came in later and found them laying on the ground. Why? They tried to light that thing themselves. That's not acceptable. That was God's fire. When God lights the fire in our heart, we're not to let it go out. You can't just put whatever you want in there and think God's going to accept it. Well, I did it my way. God requires this, but I did this, and it'll be, no, it won't. His fire only, and continuously. We can't let it go weak. How do you do that? Well, you've got to keep replenishing and restoring the fuel. One, it's a work. We talk about, well, some people get caught up in different works. There is one work, and it's continuous. It never stops. Why? You can't let the fuel go out. And that's going to require constantly cleaning it out, putting more stuff in and keeping it going and keeping this hedged up and this whatever kind of fuel it was. You got to keep everything just so it never runs out. Why? Because you don't want that fire to go out. The priests were under strict instructions to do this. The fuel was replenished, but are we replenishing our fuel? Are we thinking, well, I went and did something for God. I'm good for about a month. Come on. It's easy in your mind to get, well, I did this, and I want to do this next week, and I know I'll miss this and this and this, but I'll be fine. I was there the last few times. It's easy to get caught up in this stuff. Do we pick and choose when we feel like presenting ourselves to God? The priests had to do it every day. Literally every single day. They had to go in and present themselves before God. Do everything. The only thing they could only do once a year was go in the Holy of Holies and make an offering there. All the rest of it they had to do every single day. Are we continuously worshiping God? Well, you'll notice if your fire's going out, if you're continuously coming before God to worship Him. And I'm not talking about just in service. Oh, there's a lot more worship than just here in service. This is a place to have service and worship together. There's a whole lot more preaching goes on outside of service than there is in. Either that or you're not winning the world. Huh? Look at the condition of our country. I just read some stuff about where 60 to 70% of our country is anti-religious or unreligious. Not necessarily anti, but more un. There was a point in time when like 80-some% was Christian, not just religious. They had all attended church. They attended a service. They claimed to live for God. Now you're getting to a point where there's a large portion don't even know God. Very little of God. And then for those, the high priest, once a year, he was allowed to open that veil and step in, and there was the Ark of the Covenant. And on that Ark of the Covenant, on the lid, in the center, they called it the mercy seat. Best we know, because nobody's seen it. There was no actual seat there. It was just the area. It was the area between a cherub on each end facing each other. God had told them, when you make that, you set that in there, you consecrate that, that's where my presence will be, right there on that mercy seat, right between those two. You come in here once a year when you're allowed to come before me, and you bring in the blood offering. Remember, something had to die in order for the rest of us to live. Remember the process. You bring that in, sprinkle that on that mercy seat. I'll take that offering. That's when you'll be washed or covered. Your sins will be covered for another year. Christ came and said, Father, I'll give you my blood. Okay, I don't need that mercy seat no more. I'll just wash the sins clear away. But they came in before him, and they gave that offering. That was the high priest. In the New Testament, we're going to see we're the high priests of our temple. We are the high priest now. We're the ones who are physically coming before God every time we come, every time we get up and walk around. If His Spirit's dwelling in our temple, we're the priests. We're the high priests. They went before Him. You know what? They bowed down. They sprinkled that on there. Then they bowed down in reverence, in humility, and waited for God to speak. Well, this is what they did when they physically finally got that chance to be in front of God. They just got down and waited for God to speak. You can go in there and argue and tell Him what you're going to do and how you got to do it, but they just waited for God to speak, to hear from God. What do you have? What do you want to say to me? Do we do that? Well, we're going through the process with our soul, with our life. When we come, do we get before God and then leave it there? Okay, God, you tell me. I'm not me tell you what I want and how I think it should be. You tell me what you want me to do. What would you have of me? Come on, it's a lost thing. I remember growing up, we heard it a lot preached. It's a lost thing to think, get up, constantly asking God, what do you want from me? What would you have me do? What? Because a lot of people are afraid of what He'll say. They're afraid of the answer. The answer is going to be something you don't want to. That's going to be the answer most of the time. Well, I can tell you that right now. Not that you won't be blessed by it and you won't get enjoyment out of it when you're doing it. It'll be something you don't want to do most of the time. Because God's going to see how humble we are. How submissive are you really? You're telling me, what do I want you to do? Okay, I'll tell you what I want you to do. But it's something we don't often ask ourselves. Because you can tell if we did, there'd be a lot of different things happening. Come on. The fruits will show. We'd know. It'd be obvious because there'd be results. There'd be things happening if we're, God, what do you want me to do? What would you have me do? Because He'd have you doing something. When you come before God offering your sacrifice to him, he rarely says, you just go home and take it easy for a year. Ever had him do it, brother? Always has something. Oh, you came and asked. Thank you. I got something for you to do. There's always something. So this is the lesson.
I found that to be very challenging when he tells you what to do. It's not some little.
No, it's good for you.
It's not take the garbage out. It's.
Remember, his number one focus is other souls. So it's always going to be something that will contribute to other souls coming in. May not be actually out talking to them and preaching to them, but it will contribute. It's going to be something that's going to lead that direction. But this is what the Lord gave me. You need to understand what's happening behind walking through my temple. So